All right, let's get started with section 2. Here's your focus question. The Native American activism of the 1960s and 1970s yielded some empowering results in the years that followed. In 1975, Congress passed the Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act, which gave tribes control over federally funded programs ranging from health and social services to natural resource development. In addition, tribes such as the Menominees and Klamath won back land and federal recognition lost in the termination era. Other successes include the addition of Indian studies programs on college campuses, a growing class of Native American professionals, and new audiences for Indigenous films and books. Despite this, Native Americans continue to experience high rates of poverty, infant mortality, and unemployment on reservations and in cities. The social activism associated with the 1960s continued in the following decade. Increased activism demanding equal opportunities and treatment for people with disabilities resulted in passage, unanimously in both houses of Congress, of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which prohibited discrimination based on disability in programs conducted by federal agencies or receiving federal financial assistance, and in employment practices of federal contractors. Further efforts to enable persons with disabilities to participate fully in society followed. In 1977, disability activists organized a sit-in at offices of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, forcing the department to issue regulations to put the law into effect. Over time, public and private buildings ranging from apartment houses to train stations to sites of business have been redesigned to improve access for persons with physical disabilities. A major inspiration for these changes came with the Americans with Disabilities Act passed in 1990. Modeled on civil rights legislation of the 1960s, it extended the ban on discrimination against persons with disabilities to state and local governments and private employers, and required public accommodations such as restaurants to take steps to ensure that they were fully accessible to those with impaired mobility. The sexual revolution became mainstream in the 1970s, which alarmed conservatives. Premarital sex was more widely accepted, the number of divorces and age at marriage rose, and by 1975, more divorces occurred than first-time marriages. The American birth rate dropped dramatically, the result of women's changing lives and the availability of birth control and legal abortion. In the Nixon years, sexual equality advanced in law and policy. In 1972, Congress approved Title IX, banning gender discrimination in higher education, and the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which required that married women have access to their own credit. Huge sexual discrimination suits against large employers worth millions of dollars were won in courts. The number of working women continued to rise. By 1980, 40% of women with children worked. In 1990, the number was 55%. Working women had various motivations, from being a professional in careers traditionally limited to men to bolstering family income as the economy faltered and falling into traditional low-wage pink-collar work. The gay and lesbian movement also expanded in the 1970s. By 1979, there were thousands of local gay rights groups throughout the country. They elected officials, pressed states to decriminalize homosexuality, and passed anti-discrimination laws in major cities. They urged gay men and lesbians to come out of the closet and forced the American Psychiatric Association to remove homosexuality from its list of mental illnesses. By the 1970s, the counterculture's emphasis on personal freedom and individuality had become mainstream. So that's the end of section 2. We'll be back for section 3.